welcome to the Vintage Hollywood Archive. Beautiful, feminine, with a touch of European chic, she embodied the ideal of the Hollywood movie star. While she could have the air of being foreign and exotic, she also had a familiar appeal that audiences felt comfortable with. She made her biggest impression in sophisticated screwball comedies. Her cosmopolitan background was a suitable mix of European and American. Why did Claudette Colbert bathe in spoiled milk? Make sure to watch the video until the end, and if you're new here, don't forget to join our wonderful community by subscribing to our channel. Colbert began her career in the late 1920s in Broadway productions and progressed to motion pictures with the advent of talking pictures. Initially associated with Paramount Pictures, she gradually shifted to working as a freelance actress. She won the Academy Award for Best Actress in It Happened One Night and received 2 other Academy Award nominations. Her other notable films include Cleopatra, where she was a seductive, sultry, and phenomenal, and The Palm Beach Story. With her round face, big eyes, and charming aristocratic manner, and flair for light comedy and emotional drama, her versatility led her to becoming one of the best-paid stars of the 1930s and 1940s. And in 1938 and 1942, she was the highest-paid actress. She starred in more than 60 movies, and among her most frequent co-stars were Fred MacMurray in 7 films and Frederick March in 4 films. In the early 1950s, Colbert had basically retired from the screen to work for television and stage work instead, and earned the Tony Award nomination for The Marriage Go-Round in 1959. Her career deteriorated in the early 1960s, but in the late 1970s, it experienced a boost in theater, and she received the Sarah Siddons Award for her Chicago theater work in the year 1980. For her television work in the 2 Mrs. Greenvilles, she won a Golden Globe Award and got an Emmy Award nomination. In 1999, the American Film Institute named her the 12th greatest female star in the history of classic Hollywood cinema. She was the epitome of Hollywood glamour and splendor, putting all men and women in a trance-like state when she walked past them. She was tall and had broad shoulders, short coiled curls, and mesmerizing eyes. A French beauty, she was an exceptional actress that loved working and produced some of the greatest hits in all of the history of Hollywood. Her timeless personal style might have seemed flawless, but that was far from the truth. Her life was not all feathers and furs. A good part of it was gloom and doom as well. She created a persona that hid secrets very well, perhaps in the feathers that her bosom adorned, or the coal that was smeared around her eyes. Her glamour was attainable, but only if one had both beauty and brains. All her comedies present her as a well-dressed, modern woman who could handle any situation that you could throw at her. She played a wide range of roles. Her versatile style is often commented on, but it is reflected in her other 2 Oscar nominations. She was seen in mysterious costume dramas, melodramas, musicals, and epics, and has portrayed everyone from Cleopatra to a modern egg farmer, a villainess to a maid of Salem, and an authoress to a nun. Quite contrary to her public image of being gracious and ladylike, she was a determined show business trooper who could be exceedingly tough on fellow performers and technicians who did not meet her specified standards of professionalism. When she was displeased, she could swear like a sailor. She was also a shrewd businesswoman who could negotiate very favorable terms for doing her on-screen projects. Moreover, she was very stubborn about how she was to be presented on screen, whether it was her typical bangs hairstyle, the better side of her face that should be featured in movie scenes, or how she should be costumed for filming. She was born Emily Claudette Lily Chauchon on September 13, 1905 in Paris to Jean-Marie and Georges Claude Chauchon. At the small age of 6, she moved with her family to New York, Manhattan, where her father worked in a bank as a minor official. Her early ambition was to become a fashion designer and join an arts institute, but a chance meeting at a party led her into an acting career in stage dramas. Before she entered public school, she quickly learnt English from her grandmother and remained fluent in French. She had hoped to become a painter ever since she had first grasped a pencil. Colbert studied at Washington Irving High School, which was known for having a strong arts program. Her speech teacher, Alice Rosette, encouraged her to audition for plays she had written. In 1919, Colbert made her stage debut at the Provincetown Playhouse in the Widow's Vale at the age of 15. Her interests, however, still leaned towards painting, fashion design, and commercial art. Intending to become a fashion designer, she attended the Art Student League of New York, where she paid for her education by working as a dress shop employee. While studying for fashion design, she landed a small role in a Broadway play called The West Westcotts. In 1923, after meeting a playwright at a party, she began to address herself as Claudette instead of Lily in high school, and for her stage name, she added her parental grandmother's maiden name, Colbert. Although the play had only a short run, she enjoyed acting enough to give up thoughts about being a fashion designer. Other Broadway and touring productions followed, and soon she was to achieve theater stardom. In much of her 20s, Colbert played ingenue roles on Broadway. She made her screen debut in 1927 in a movie for director Frank Capra in New York. But it was only after the advent of talking that Colbert began her career in earnest. She began appearing regularly in movies in a variety of roles, sometimes in French-language versions of big movies made for export. More often, she appeared in tearjerker romances and routine pot boilers, i.e., I Cover the Waterfront. Another chance encounter propelled her into stardom. Cecil B. DeVille was looking for a beautiful star to play a seductive Roman queen when Colbert happened to walk past him in Paramount Studios. Her sultry look caught his eye, and she starred in his movie, The Sign of the Cross. As the queenly temptress, Colbert bared herself as much as herself and the censors would stand for, including her scenes of bathing in milk. The only problem was that after 2 days, the milk went sour, and several times she nearly fainted from the stench. The movie, however, was a huge success, which led to her being starred in one of Cecil's greatest mega-budget extravaganzas, Cleopatra. This is the year 1934, when she broke through. That year, she not only starred as Cleopatra, but had 2 big successes in melodrama imitations of Life with Louis Beavers and It Happened One Night, in which she played opposite Clark Gable. She had been initially reluctant to appear in comedies for a while, but her sparkling performance as a runway heiress became her most famous. All 3 films were nominated for the Best Motion Picture that year. One of the highest-paid film stars in the 1930s and 1940s, Colbert continued to demonstrate her expert comic timing in more sophisticated and decent comedies, such as The Gilded Lily with Fred MacMurran and Ray Milland, Midnight with Donna Meck and John Barrymore, and The Palm Beach Story with Joel McCrea. She also had very notable dramatic roles in films like The Private Worlds, for which she won an Academy Award. She made dramatic films as well and starred beside Henry Fonda in Drums Along the Mohawk in 1939, playing an obedient wife during the American Revolution, captured by the Indians. However, screwball comedy remained Colbert's favorite genre. Praised by the critics and fans for her sense of style and fashion, Colbert was praised throughout her career that she was very groomed and costumed. For her melodrama Tomorrow is Forever, Jean Lewis was hired to make 18 costumes for her wardrobe on set. Her popularity and fame in 1947 led her to place 9th in Quigley's top 10 money-making stars. She achieved major success when she starred with McMurray in Egg and I, which was named the year's 2nd highest-grossing film and the 12th most profitable American film in the 1940s. The suspense-filled film Sleep, My Love with Robert Cummings was a modest commercial success. By 1949, she still ranked as the 22nd highest box office star in all of Hollywood. The romantic comedy Bride for Sale, where Colbert played part of a love triangle that included George Brent and Robert Young, was well reviewed. Her performance in the Pacific War film Three Came Home was also praised by critics and fans alike. The mystery melodrama The Secret Fury was distributed by the RKO Studios, received mixed reviews. During this period, Colbert was unable to work beyond 5 p.m. each day due to orders from her doctor. While Colbert still looked like a young woman, she found it very hard making more transitions to playing mature and wise characters as she neared her middle age. In 1949, she was chosen to play Margot Channing in All About Eve, where director Joseph L. Mankiewicz felt that she best displayed the style he envisioned for the part. However, Colbert severely injured her spine, forcing her to leave the picture shortly before the filming began. Bette Davis was cast instead and received an Oscar nomination for the film. In the early 1950s, she traveled to Europe for tax purposes and joined lesser films. The Planter's Wife was a success in British market. She played a supporting role in Royal Affairs in Versailles, her one and only film with a French director. It was filmed in the United States in 1957. In 1954, Colbert turned down a $1 million broadcast deal with NBC TV, but made a deal with CBS TV to appear in several teleplays. After a successful appearance in the television version of The Royal Family, she took on more screen work. She starred in television adaptations of Blithe Spirit in 1956 and The Bells of St. Mary in 1959. She guest starred on Robert Montgomery Presents and Playhouse 90. In 1956, she hosted the 28th Academy Awards ceremony. In 1957, she was cast as Lucy Bradford, the wife of a schoolteacher called Jim Bradford, in the Blood and the Dust episode of CBS Dick Powell's Sing Great Theater. In the story, Jim agrees to back down when a gunman asks him to leave town, and Lucy is distressed because her husband has not fired a weapon since the Civil War. In the show's 1960 episode, So Young the Savage Land, she played Beth Braden, who becomes crazy with her rancher husband when he turns to violence to protect their property. In 1958, she returns to Broadway in the play Marriage Go Round, for which she was nominated for a Best Actress Tony Award. She made a small, brief return to the screen beside Troy Donahue in Parish. Her marriages were rather unique. She and her first-ever husband, film actor/director Norman Foster, lived apart, never shared a home together in Hollywood. Instead, Colbert chose to live with her domineering mother in Los Angeles. From 1935 until his death in 1968, Dr. Joel Pressman was Colbert's husband. His most vital duty in her childless marriage was to be her social companion and her friend at industry/social events. By the middle of the 1950s, when Colbert relocated to New York City, she and Pressman lived essentially apart. Over the years, Claudette had several very close women friends. In 1928, she married actor-director Norman Foster, with whom she co-starred in The Baker and in the film Young Man of Manhattan, for which he received negative reviews about being her weakest leading man. Their marriage remained a secret for many years while they lived in separate homes. In Los Angeles, Colbert shared a home with her mother, who disliked Foster and did not allow him in her house. Colbert and Foster divorced in 1935 in Mexico. On Christmas Eve in 1935, Yuma, Arizona, Colbert got married with Dr. Joel Pressman, who became a professor and chief of Head and Neck Surgery Department of UCLA Medical School. She gave him a Beechcraft single-engine plane to Pressman as a gift. They purchased a ranch in Southern California, where Colbert enjoyed horseback riding and her husband kept showing cattle. Colbert drove a flashy Lincoln Continental and a Ford Thunderbird during this time. Their relationship lasted for more than 3 decades, 30 years to be exact, before Pressman's death. Although retired from motion picture since the middle of the 1950s, Colbert was still financially stable enough to maintain an upscale and high-end lifestyle. She had a beautiful country home in Palm Springs for the weekends and used to rent a small cottage in Cap Ferret in southeastern France for relaxation. She was extravagant, and no one had ever seen someone quite like her. In 1963, she sold her Lloyd Wright-designed residence in Holmby Hills. She and Pressman had rented a small house together in Beverly Hills. In 1958, she met Verna Hall, an affluent painter and photographer, and the stepdaughter of a Sears Roebuck heiress. They had a 9-year, almost decade-long friendship, although some suggest it was more than what it appeared to be. They traveled together, bought and appreciated art, and rented twin New York penthouses. When Colbert bought a home in Barbados in early 1960s, Hull bought a house next door amongst rumors that their friendship was a romantic one, which Colbert denied frequently and with vigor. Their friendship ended over an argument that took place when her husband lay dying, wherein Hull insisted Pressman would not only take his own life, but Colbert's too. For years, Colbert distributed her time between her Manhattan apartment and her vacation house in Speedstown, Barbados. The latter, bought from a British gentleman and nicknamed Belle Rive, was the island's only plantation house fronting beach. However, her permanent address remained Manhattan. Colbert sustained a series of small strokes during the last 3 years of her life. She died in 1996 in Barbados, where she had employed a housekeeper and 2 cooks. She was 92. Her remains were transported to New York for cremation and funeral services. A mass was held later at the Church of St. Vincent Ferrer in Manhattan. Her ashes were laid to rest in Goldings Bay Church Cemetery in Barbados alongside her beloved mother and second husband. Colbert never had any children and left behind most part of her estate, estimated at around $3.5 million, including her Manhattan apartment, to a longtime friend, Helen O'Hagan. She was and will be forever glamorous in everyone's eyes, and the diva that no other can top. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new here. Claudette Colbert was the highest box office star in the 30s and 40s, but she wasn't the only person who knew the key to success in Hollywood. What made Peter Finch win awards one after another? Find out from this video.